Right bracket chapter 3. Enoch and his city. And Enoch and all his people walked with God, and he dwelt in the midst of Zion, and it came to pass that Zion was not, for God received it up into his own bosom, and from thence went forth the saying, Zion is fled. Moses 7:69. While Adam was still alive on the earth, the greatest financial success story took place. From that time to the present, there has never been a society to equal it, as the people were so righteous, they were translated. At this early date, God provided that crowning attainment for an example that others could follow. And the man who made it all possible was Enoch. It is only through the Mormon scriptures that we know the principles that made Enoch so great in the sight of God. Thus, Mormons should have a particular interest in the accomplishments of Enoch. Enoch was born when Adam was 622 years old. In his youth he said, "My father taught me in all the ways of God." In spite of Enoch's speech impediment handicap, God called him to preach repentance to a wayward generation. To this call, Enoch replied, Right bracket, why is it that I have found favor in thy sight, and am but a lad, and all the people hate me, for I am slow of speech, wherefore am I thy servant? Moses 6:31. The Lord assured him that he would have utterance and also power, even to change rivers out of their course, and to move mountains. He was told to anoint his eyes with clay and wash them, and was amazed to discover that he could see the spirit world and those things which are not visible to the natural eye. Thus Enoch became a seer for the Lord. When Enoch was rebuking the people for their sins, they said, A wild man hath come among us, and all men were offended because of him. Yet, as he spoke, the people could not refute him, nor dared they. He told them that they had become carnal, sensual and devilish, and are shut out from the presence of God. Moses 6:49. His warnings should have been enough to make the people fear God, because Enoch had spoken face to face with God and understood him, and knew what he wanted from his children. Yet, the people would not accept his testimony. He then prophesied of a battle between the Canaanites and the Shumites, in which the people of Shum would be utterly destroyed. He saw blackness come upon the people of Canaan, and they were identified as the seed of Cain, and were despised among all people. When Enoch was 65 years old, he began to build his city of Zion. At that same time his son, Methuselah, was born, who would be an heir to the priesthood. Also it was at this time that the great patriarchal head of the human race, Adam, put his hands right bracket upon Enoch's head and gave him another special blessing. He was only 25 years old when first ordained under the hand of Adam. CD and C. 107:48. Enoch's ministry took him into the lands of Sharon, Enoch, Omer, Heni, Shem, Hena and Hananiah, in fact, to all the people, save to the people of Canaan. Moses 7:12. Enoch drew the issues to a head. He caused a clear separation between the people, either they gathered with him, or they opposed him. Those who opposed him were so angered that they wanted to destroy him. Those who followed Enoch were peaceful, God-loving, and obedient in keeping the commandments. However, now they were faced with war by the rebellious. Mighty armies of conquest were marching in upon them. Enoch had realized that his campaign for reformation had been a cause of offense among the proud and wicked multitudes who had assembled to hear him, but just how deeply they were offended now became apparent. For the first time in the recorded annals of sacred history, the people of God were subjected to direct attack by their enemies. Being a peace-loving people, they were probably caught completely unawares. The first 2,000 years, Cleon Skousen, page 165. But Enoch didn't bother to make weapons of war, nor did he study any manual on military tactics. He simply called upon God to fight his battles for him. Right bracket, and so great was the faith of Enoch, that he led the people of God, and their enemies came to battle against them, and he spake the word of the Lord, and the earth trembled, and the mountains fled, even according to his command, and the rivers of water were turned out of their course, and the roar of the lions was heard out of the wilderness, and all nations feared greatly. So powerful was the word of Enoch, and so great was the power of the language which God had given him. Moses 7:13. The enemies who were spared from destruction then began to fight among themselves, and from that time forth there were wars and bloodshed among them. But peace was enjoyed by the people of Enoch, and for over 3 centuries they were left alone, and the fear of the Lord was upon all nations, so great was the glory of the Lord which was upon his people. Moses 7:17. Enoch established a spiritual work that was not to be forgotten, but he also established a temple work that was never to be duplicated. his city would live as a family, all laboring for each other, no rich and no poor, all for the space of over 360 years. The city of Enoch prospered, and the Lord blessed the land, and they were blessed upon the mountains, and upon the high places, and did flourish. Moses 7:17. This people lived so close to the laws and commandments of God that the Lord came and dwelt with his people, and they dwelt in righteousness. Moses 7:16. Enoch also walked with God, and he saw the abode of God in heaven, and said, And I saw the Lord, and he stood before my face, and he talked with me, even as a man talketh one with another, face to face, and he said unto me, Look, and I will show unto thee the world for the space of many generations. Moses 7:4. He also saw the destiny of his people, Zion, and their heavenly abode. His people were a mixture of all the seed of Adam, save it was the seed of Cain, for the seed of Cain were black, and had not place among them. Moses 7:22. He saw the destructions that would soon come upon the earth through the flood, then he saw the coming of the Son of Man to the earth, and his atonement to save mankind. He was also promised that a remnant his, Noah's, seed, should always be found among all nations, while the earth should stand. Moses 7:52. Enoch taught and prepared the people extensively before they were ready for translation. Brigham Young said, Enoch had to talk with and teach people during a period of 360 years before he could get them prepared to enter into their rest, and then he obtained power to translate himself and his people, with the region they inhabited, their houses, gardens, fields, cattle and all their possessions. JD 3:320. Enoch and his city became so righteous that they enjoyed nearly every conceivable blessing from God. Then when Enoch was 430 years old, both he and the people in his city were translated. The prophet Joseph Smith explained this doctrine of translation. Many have supposed that the doctrine of translation was a doctrine whereby men were taken immediately into the presence of God and into an eternal fullness, but this is a mistaken idea. Their place of habitation is that of the terrestrial order, and a place prepared for such characters he held in reserve to be ministering angels unto many planets, and who as yet have not entered into so great a fullness as those who are resurrected from the dead. Translation obtains deliverance from the tortures and sufferings of the body, but their existence will prolong as to the labors and toils of the ministry, before they can enter into so great a rest and glory. TPJS, pages 170 to 171. Elder Joseph Young, brother of Brigham Young, relates information he heard from the prophet Joseph regarding the translation of the city of Enoch. The people and the city and the foundations of the earth on which it stood had partaken of so much of the immortal elements bestowed upon them by God through the teachings of Enoch that became philosophically impossible for them to remain any longer upon the earth. Consequently, Enoch and his people, with the city right back at which they occupied and the foundations on which it stood, with a large piece of earth immediately connected with the foundations and the city, had assumed an aerial position within the limits of our solar system, and this in consequence of their faith. Joseph Smith said, on another occasion, in the hearing of some of the saints still surviving, that the city of Enoch would again take its place in the identical spot from which it had been detached, now forming that chasm of the earth, filled with water, called the Gulf of Mexico. Enoch and his city, Joseph Young, pages 11 and 12. See also LDS Reference Encyclopedia, Melvin R. Brooks, page 121. The Last Days by Robert Smith also records an occasion where Joseph Smith stated that the city of Enoch had been located where the Gulf of Mexico now exists. Page 215. The same call that was received by Enoch has been given in our own time and for the same reasons. God wants to gather together a select people to prepare them temporally and spiritually to meet the conditions and tribulations that are about to befall the earth. The Lord gave this directive to the Mormon people when the church was only 6 months old. Consider how similar to Enoch's revelation was the commandment to this people. And ye are called to bring to pass the gathering of mine elect, for mine elect hear my voice and harden not their hearts, wherefore the decree hath gone forth from the Father, that they shall be gathered in unto one place upon the face of this land, to prepare their hearts and be prepared in all things against the day when tribulation and desolation are sent forth upon the wicked. For the hour is nigh and the day soon at hand when the earth is ripe, and all the proud and they that do wickedly shall be as stubble, and I will burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that wickedness shall not be upon the earth, for the hour is nigh, and that which was spoken by mine apostles must be fulfilled, for as they spoke so shall it come to pass. For I will reveal myself from heaven with power and great glory, with all the hosts thereof, and dwell in righteousness with men on earth 1,000 years, and the wicked shall not stand. D&C 29:7-11. Because of these conditions that are upon us, it is necessary to understand the principles and doctrines that brought Enoch and his city into the presence of God. First, we must understand that both temporal and spiritual things were brought into common harmony. This has often been called the Order of Enoch, or the United Order, as was so designated by the Lord himself. After you are organized, you shall be called the United Order of the Stake of Zion, the city of Shineah, Kirtland. And your brethren, after they are organized, shall be called the United Order of the city of Zion. D&C 104:48. The Lord gives men their free agency to work out their temporal affairs, but their principal objective should be to establish as Zion. Enoch was able to achieve as Zion, and it was acknowledged by the Lord, for we read, "And the Lord called his people Zion because a. They were of one heart, b. And one mind, c. And dwelt in righteousness, d. And there was no poor among them." Moses 7:18. Most of the principles which brought Enoch and his city into such favor with God and to the point of translation were hidden with the past. However, they are now better understood because they were revealed again when the gospel was restored in our dispensation. W. Cleon Skousen gave a clear and brief account of these basic principles of the United Order. First, that all things in the earth belong to the Creator, and that men are only the custodians of these resources and riches, which He has placed upon the earth for the welfare of mankind. D&C 104:15-17, 55-57. Second, that the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man require that human beings look upon one another as members of the same family, the family of God, and that they are directly responsible for one another's welfare. D&C 104:18. Third, that in this family relationship every person is expected to do his share. Each shall give what he has, labor, skills, art, management, goods, services, and in return, receive what he needs. All have a place in the program except one type of person, the idler. Under the Order of Enoch, the managers of the system were forbidden to give the fruits of others' labors to any person who could but would not work. D&C 42:42. Fourth, that the members of the Order of Enoch shall take the responsibility of giving education and assistance to those who are lacking in the ability or capacity to provide for themselves. This was not just charity for the poor, but a program to provide the poor with the necessities of life, and then aid them in becoming self-sustaining members of the order. The ultimate object and one which the people of Enoch attained was to have no poor among them. Moses 7:18. Fifth, that private property and the dignity of the individual must be preserved. The private property of each member of the order was to be according to his family, according to his circumstances and his wants and his needs. D&C 51:3 inasmuch as his wants are just. D&C 82:17 everything he could produce over and above the needs of himself and family was to be donated to the common treasury of the order for the welfare of others less fortunate. D&C 42:33, 34, 55, 70:7-10. As for the dignity and independence of the individual, Dr. John A. Whitsoe points out that in this order, every man must be respected as a free agent. He may enter the order at his pleasure. Once in the order, he must be allowed to use, fully, and as he pleases, any properties placed in his hands. He may leave the order at his pleasure. Church News 15 May 1949, page 23 the first 2000 years, pp.173-175. The prophet Joseph Smith eagerly sought to establish these principles among the Mormon people, even during the first year of the organization of the church. His vision and hope was that the Lord was going to make the Church of Jesus Christ a kingdom of priests, a holy people, a chosen generation, as in Enoch's day, having all the gifts as illustrated to the church in Paul's epistles and teachings to the churches in his day. TPJS, page 202. The prophet had previously given the people assurance that these great promises could be realized by this people and could bring them into the presence of God. It is the privilege of every elder to speak of the things of God, and could we all come together with one heart and one mind in perfect faith, the veil might as well be rent today as next week, or any other time. TPJS, page 9. Brigham Young was a prophet, seer, and revelator who understood the past, present and future. In an 1872 conference sermon on the law of consecration, he described conditions as they existed in the city of Enoch. He began, "Suppose we should examine a city in a stake of Zion conducted after the order of Enoch. No person can be exalted in the kingdom of heaven without first submitting himself to the rules, regulations, laws and ordinances of that kingdom, and being perfectly subject to them in every respect. No person is fit to be a ruler until he can be ruled, no one is fit to be the Lord of all, until he has submitted himself to be servant of all." JD 15:220. The remainder of his talk, JD 15:220-229, deals with the description of this ideal city, patterned after Enoch's city, summarized in the following categories. Housing. Would we build our houses all Mike? No. Build your houses just the size you want them. If there is any one person who has better taste in building than others, and can get up more tasteful houses, make your plans and we will put them up, and have the greatest variety we can imagine. Eating. Instead of having every woman getting up in the morning and fussing around a cook stove or over the fire, cooking a little food for 2 or 3 or half a dozen persons, or a dozen, as the case may be, she would have nothing to do but to go to her work. Let me have my arrangement here, a hall in which I can seat 500 persons to eat, and I have my cooking apparatus, ranges and ovens all prepared. And suppose we had a hall 100 feet long with our cooking room attached to this hall, and there is a person at the further end of the table, and he should telegraph that he wanted a warm beefsteak, and this is conveyed to him by little railway, perhaps under the table, and he or she may take her beefsteak. What do you want to take with it? A cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a cup of milk, piece of toast, or something or other, no matter what they call for, it is conveyed to them and they take it, and we can seat 500 at once, and serve them all in a very few minutes. And when they have all eaten, the dishes are piled together, slipped under the table, and run back to the ones who wash them. Work. What will we do through the day? Each one go to his work. Here are the herdsmen, here are those who look after the sheep, here are those who make the butter and cheese, all it there by themselves. Some for the canyon, perhaps, or for the plow or harvest, no difference what, each and every class is organized, and all labor and perform their part. Education. The youth would have a good education, they would receive all the learning that could be given to mortal beings, and after they had studied the best books that could be got hold of, they would still have the advantage of the rest of the world, for they would be taught in and have a knowledge of the things of God. Bring up our children in this way, and they would be trained to love the truth. Teach them honesty, virtue and prudence, and we should not see the waste around that now is witnessed. Business. Half the labor necessary to make a people moderately comfortable now would make them independently rich under such a system. You would see a people all attending to their business, having the most improved machinery for making cloth, and doing every kind of housework, farming, all mechanical operations, in our factories, dairies, orchards and vineyards, and possessing every comfort and convenience of life. A society like this would never have to buy anything, they would make and raise all they would eat, drink and wear, and always have something to sell and bring money, to help to increase their comfort and independence. Doctors. And if we have sick, would they want a carriage to ride in? Yes, and they would have it, too. We would have nice ones to carry out the sick, aged and infirm, and give them exercise, and give them a good place to sleep in, good food to eat, good company to be with them and take care of them. Would you want doctors? Yes, to set bones. We should want a good surgeon for that, or to cut off a limb. But do you want doctors? For not much of anything else, let me tell you, only the traditions of the people lead them to think so, and here is a growing evil in our midst. It will be so in a little time that not a woman in all Israel will dare to have a baby, unless she can have a doctor by her. Now the cry is, send for a doctor. If you have a pain in the head, send for a doctor. If your heel aches, I want a doctor. The study and practice of anatomy and surgery are very good, they are mechanical, and are frequently needed. Do you not think it is necessary to give medicine sometimes? Yes, but I would rather have a wife of mine that knows what medicine to give me when I am sick, than all the professional doctors in the world. Lawyers. Do you think we shall want any lawyers in our society? No, I think not. I feel about them as Peter of Russia is said to have felt when he was in England. He saw and heard the lawyers pleading at a great trial there, and he was asked his opinion concerning them. He replied that he had 2 lawyers in his empire, and when he got home he intended to hang one of them. That is about the love I have for some lawyers who are always stirring up strife. For a man to understand law is very excellent, but who is there that understands it? They that do and are peacemakers, they are legitimate lawyers. There are many lawyers who are very excellent men. What is the advice of an honorable gentleman in the profession of the law? Do not go to law with your neighbor, do not be coaxed into a lawsuit, for you will not be benefited by it. If you do go to law, you will hate your neighbor, and you will finally have to pick some of your neighbors to settle it for you to act as a jury, and your ease goes before them to decide. They are not lawyers, but they understand truth and justice, and they have got to judge the ease at last. Why not do this at first, and say we will arbitrate this ease, and we will have no lawsuit, and no difficulty with our neighbor, to alienate our feelings one from another. This is the way we should do as a community. The Sabbath. When Sunday morning came, every child would be required to go to the school room, and parents to go to meeting or Sunday school, and not get into their wagons or carriages, or on the railroads, or lounge around reading novels. They would be required to go to meeting, to read the scriptures, to pray and cultivate their minds. Prayers. This is our prayer room, where we would assemble perhaps 500 persons at one time, and have our prayers in the evening and in the morning. Such a system would, of course, be a challenge and a complete break from our present traditions. As in Enoch's time, it involves many years to teach the people to break away from worldly influences. The Lord has said that in the last days there would be a separation of the sheep from the goats, or the wheat from the chaff. It will be a day very much identical to that of Enoch, except that Enoch and his brethren were separated from the earth, and were received unto myself a city, reserved until a day righteousness shall come. D&C 45:11-12. And this day of righteousness was shown to Enoch in vision. He saw that God would gather out mine elect from the 4 quarters of the earth, unto a place which I shall prepare, an holy city, that my people may gird up the loins, and be looking forth for the time of my coming, for there shall be my tabernacle, and it shall be called Zion, and New Jerusalem. And the Lord said unto Enoch, Then shalt thou and all thy city meet them there, and we will receive them into our bosom, and they shall see us, and we will fall upon their necks, and they shall fall upon our necks, and we will kiss each other. And there shall be mine abode, and it shall be Zion, which shall come forth out of all the creations which I have made, and for the space of 1,000 years the earth shall rest. Moses 7:62-64. Many of the great events that occurred in the days of Enoch will also occur in the latter days of the world. All the ancient prophets have desired to live in our day because of the tremendous powers of God that will be manifest on the earth. It is both interesting and astounding to see the parallel between the events and circumstances of Enoch's day and those of our own. Consider the following. The Lord established Joseph Smith as his prophet on the earth, just as he did Enoch. D&C 21:1-2. There would be a separation of the righteous from the wicked to one place. D&C 29:8. The priesthood was not taken nor given to the Canaanite people. D&C 14:10, 39:11. The gospel was taken to all other people as a warning testimony. D&C 88:84-85. The wicked nations that rejected the gospel were often at war and destroying each other. D&C 87:6. The Lord brought down calamity upon the wicked nations with earthquakes, pestilence, famine, etc. D&C 84:114-119. The true saints of God will be advocating and living the united order, without rich or poor. D&C 104:1. The Lord's people would establish a city of Zion. D&C 42:35-36. The true saints would have God to give them divine protection and fight their battles. D&C 105:32. The true saints of God will be given spiritual gifts and know the will of God. D&C 84:64-73. The true saints will be given the power and blessings of translation to a terrestrial glory. D&C 63:49. And the Lord shall rule and reign in their midst and be their God. D&C 136. Enoch received the gospel and the priesthood by which he brought his city into a translated condition. The gospel and priesthood were restored again in our dispensation, and the same true principles must be obeyed, so a chosen people can become prepared to live in a translated world, where the holy city of Zion, the New Jerusalem, will be established, and the presence of God will be manifest.